All right. Here's a coronavirus update for Monday, the 10th of February. Looking at the markets. See, markets open ahead of time, so Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern is when the first markets open up and they move west. So the Asian markets, Middle Eastern, European, all the way to America. So right now we're still 4 hours away from these markets opening. We're just looking across the board. Almost everything is red except for the Standard & Poor futures. Gold is up, silver is up. Now, the graph that I have here in front of you, the green line is SPY. That's the Standard & Poor ETF. The light blue-ish green line is the Dow Jones Industrial. And the blue line is the Shanghai SSE, Shanghai Stock Exchange. Now it opened on February 3rd. Oops, I'm running the wrong. Now it opened on February 3rd. After the government decided to pump it. Am I? No, okay. I've got the wrong chart. I was looking at gold. Let me change this. This makes a whole lot more sense. I was confused for a second. So, as coronavirus fears began and China decided to extend its New Year's closure of stores and markets, the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial, and Shanghai Stock Exchange took 2 days of what would be called a correction, a sell-off, and this what's responsible for this big move downwards. And since then, both China and America have been pumping out hundreds of billions of dollars to keep these markets afloat and keep them liquid. Thursday, and these markets are tracking each other almost perfectly. So that's important. We're going to get back to that. But like I said, this is coronavirus video. I apologize for the slow start. Here we go. Here's some news. First, we're going to get into some news articles. Then we're going to talk about some developments on the corona disease and the knowledge that we have surrounding that. Then I'm going to talk about how it affects the markets, and we're going to go over two scenarios: best case scenario and worst case scenario, and what I think. So here we have some coronavirus. 5 Britons in French ski chalet catch the virus. Now, these Britons they went from Great Britain to France. They did not go to mainland China, but they caught the disease. Somebody brought it from China to there. Escaped the quarantine, escaped the searches. For all we know, the person who brought it to the French Alps didn't even go to China. They could have caught it from somebody else. But I just want to establish a timeline here because this is important as I get on to the later portion of the video. They had gone to the French Alps and they returned on the 28th. And this article was written on the 8th of January, I believe. 8th of February. And so the Thursday here would be the 6th. The 6th of February is when he was diagnosed. That's about a 10 It's a 14-day window, which is exactly what is being reported. People say up to 14, but excuse me, up to 21 days, but we're learning as we go. Japan, the cruise liner, there's now something like 70 cases. The first American dies, but this is on Chinese soil, not in American soil. And we have some coronavirus numbers that we're looking at, which is 40,614 people that are in critical condition. They require ICU care. They're saying that there's 910 deaths and 3,000 recovered, which means a lot are still in limbo as hospitals become overburdened. That death rate will rise for those people who are in critical condition, which according to these numbers is something like 1/8. No. Somewhere 1 per every 6 to 7 people. Now, I'm jumping around here, but I'm going to talk about armadillos. We all know what an armadillo looks like. Yep. One thing about armadillos is they are used in the study of leprosy since they carry leprosy. They are also a natural reservoir for the Chagas disease. It's a parasite. There was not an epidemic or a pandemic, but there was a breakout of it in recent times. One of the interesting things about armadillos is most of the members of the genus Dasypus give birth to 4 monozygotic young, that is, identical quadruplets. It's a rarity in nature, really. And they're always going to carry leprosy. Or I think there's a percentage out there. It's like 80% carry leprosy. Now, one thing that they're changing up their mind, the pangolin right here looks exactly like. The pangolin is one of the most poached animals in the world. It's used for its shell or its scales. They are high in keratin, and the Chinese love to use them in their traditional medicine. So now they're blaming, because pangolins carry a coronavirus, they are saying that the pangolin trade, before it was bats in a wet market, look, they're going to come up with any reason, and I'm going to get to this, these are the next tabs, they're going to come up with any reason to not tell you the truth. It's like when you catch somebody in a lie and they just start running circles around their own story, and they'll go to anything except for admitting the truth. And here is what we're talking about. Now, Chris Martenson said in the beginning of this outbreak, at least 2 weeks ago, that if there are reported cases and their deaths follow closely to a mathematical prediction, that they are fabricating their numbers because it's following a mathematical pattern. Now, yes, this weekend there has been a slight divergence. But again, I'm going to tell you why. Let's say best case scenario, worst case scenario. This is what we're getting into. Okay. Best case scenario, worst case scenario. Before I get to that, this tab should have been here. So, a lot of people are saying that the NCOV, the novel coronavirus, enters the body through ACE2 receptors, which is angiotensin converting enzyme 2, which they say there were a lot of reports that it was a bioweapon designed to target the Han Chinese. That's a ethnic group within China. And they're saying that these ACE2 receptors are the what's responsible for the coronavirus being easy to enter. Now that may be true. I think it's too early to tell. I mean, it could be a coincidence. It could be making people more susceptible to it. But again, it's just another story to downplay. The media is upselling it, but the scientists are downplaying it. They're saying it's not that serious. The death rate is not that high. They're saying, well, it does this, it does that, this, that, and the third. Like, they're trying to create this narrative, and they're trying to tell us anything but the truth. Okay? And I'll tell you why, because we're going to get back into the markets very quickly. They want to delay. They want you to keep you uninformed for as long as possible. They want to delay your moment of realization, your moment of truth for as long as possible, hoping that it's too late for you to realize what's really going on. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but I don't want to. So, look, the cases this weekend kind of shuttered off. That is to give the appearance that, oh, the virus isn't spreading as bad. The quarantines are working. It's not as deadly as they say it is. Don't worry. It only targets Asian people. Also, if I'm not mistaken, people with diabetes have more prominent ACE2 receptors. I've listened to so much stuff and I've read so much stuff that there's a lot to take in regarding this. And it's all new. It's the new frontier, so it's all getting mapped out and constantly being drawn over. Now, let me tell you how this makes sense to the markets and why they are not letting you know the truth. This is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. This is a repo page. This is where you can go and you can check everything. Now, if you look, very lately, they've been printing out hundreds of billions of dollars in overnight loans, in 1 week loans, in 2 week loans, just trying to keep these markets afloat. Hold on. Excuse me, that was my alarm. And again, China is injecting hundreds of billions of dollars into the markets to keep it afloat. Okay? Now, the effect of doing this, printing out money, the central banks are literally printing out money, causing inflation, and buying stocks just to keep the markets up, because if the markets go too low, all the retail investors, all the big hedge funds, they'll pull their money out and all the banks will break like in 2008. Broken. Done. Zero money will move through the system because it's a digital system. It's so intertwined. So complexly intertwined. Okay? That's the important thing to take away. Now, people are saying, because the lockdowns are constantly being expanded, and there's 400 million Chinese on lockdown. That's curfews. That's constant surveillance and having to go through checkpoints. They can't go to work. In Wuhan, one person per household is let out of the house per day to shop for groceries. But guess what? There's no groceries on the shelf. And that's it. That's it. Like, the world's largest producer of goods, the largest consumer of oil, has stopped. 400 million is somewhere between a third and a quarter of their population. What do they say, 1.2 billion, but then there's probably many that are unaccounted for. Now, the iPhone production, the AirPod production, it came to a halt. And Foxconn, which is a company who owns the factories over there in China, they opened their factory today, but they've been closed down for quite some time. They opened their factory today, but they're only operating with 10% of the workers for now. And that's just an effort to give the markets a little bit of hope. That's just, it will not supply the amount of goods that is needed. China cuts copper and oil consumption. 25% fall in domestic oil purchases. Oil is crashing. Now in Singapore, shelves, supermarket shelves, emptied. People are lining up to buy as many goods as possible, preparing for what's going to happen. They are closer to this. Not only that, but the languages are more similar, so they're catching wind through a game of telephone and they're figuring it out. The United States is going to be last to the party, and that's what they want. Uh, okay, I think I got ahead of myself, but take this time to explain this to you. The United States is the petrodollar, the world reserve currency. If they print the dollar into hyperinflation or oblivion, not only will the whole world stop, but the whole world will know who to blame. And that's the central bankers, the practicers of usury. And then the blame will be they don't want the blame placed on them. This is why this virus is the perfect scapegoat. And so America has to be the last one to the table, the last one to the party, the last one to realize what's going on. And this is why they're keeping us uninformed. They're keeping us blind. Now, best case scenario, maybe the virus isn't as bad as it is. Maybe it only kills 2% of people. Maybe it only kills the old or the young or the chronically ill. But we're seeing this not the case as doctors are dying. The doctor who died in his 30s, he was 31 years old, 34 years old. Right? Now, I'm going to show you some evidence explaining the worst case scenario and why I know for a fact that the situation is worse than what they say it is. Wuhan province bans funerals. Okay? All the bodies must be cremated. Now over here, we have a rise in sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide, and here's a, I don't know where this is going to bring me when I click on it, but here's a picture. We're going to try and get a better. This is a rise in sulfur dioxide gas. They're in the cities, Wuhan and right here. This comes from burning organic material, fossil fuels, lumber, and bodies. Not 900 bodies in a month. 900 bodies a day. 900 bodies every few hours. Thousands of bodies a day. If it was 900 people, they wouldn't be fumigating the outdoors. If it was 900 people, we wouldn't be catching wind in pictures of body bags being collected. Multiple bags in a van. Now, here's where you have to realize that it is inevitable that it reaches America. Latest studies suggest that the coronavirus can go through feces and that it can spread through the air. And I've already showed you links. Explaining that it is jumping quarantines. It is out there. It's in the world. I want to I want you to use your imagination here and understand some of the science that I presented to you. Somebody travels not even to China. Take your pick. Doesn't travel to China, travels to China, it doesn't matter. And contracts the coronavirus, but it still feels good, still feels healthy, still looks healthy, will not be detected in the body unless they do a blood test, and even then we're not sure about that. Goes to the airport. The food overseas is a little different. So a person may have some unusual bowel movements that they need to just take care of. Nothing crazy, nothing warranting a detection of illness. Just gotta expel some unwanted contents. So they go to the bathroom, in a public bathroom in the airport. They do a number two, and they flush the toilet. Now those public bathrooms, they don't have lids, and even then, when the toilet is flushed, microscopic molecules are everywhere over the bathroom, and coronavirus lives in feces. So we have to know, you have to understand that this disease is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in all corners of the earth already. And this was their point. The reason why they're lying, the reason why they're pumping money is because they want this virus to spread everywhere. And then once they are 100% sure that it is everywhere and that people will be getting extremely sick, that's when they'll let the markets crash. Or they will print the markets into oblivion. Or they will start World War III so that they can prop oil up, they can print war bonds, and force everybody to go to work or go to war. These are their alternatives. Now, going back to this Britain one with the timeline, when a person caught coronavirus, they caught it in the end of January. Now, I promise you, I am willing to bet I would bet you any amount of money that I have in my bank account, but I don't have any money in my bank account. I've put money into Wall Street. I've put money into gold and silver. I've put money into cryptos. There's no point in having cash on the sidelines at this point in time. Whether by coincidence or on purpose, the coronavirus was at the Super Bowl, and if you've ever been to a bathroom or just at a sporting event, you know. And people travel all around the country, all around the world to see that Super Bowl. It has to be accepted. And we're looking at a 10 to 14 day timeline. From the 2nd to the 9th, it's really only been like 7 days and a few hours. So we've got this week and next week to look and be very diligent and look at the increase in potential. But even then, the people might just start falling sick. So it's one of those things where if I give you a timeline and the day comes, you're like, oh, nothing to worry about. And then a week after that, all hell could break loose. But you have to understand that this virus is out there. You could even be crossing paths with people with this virus, breathing the same air as them. It's here. It's everywhere. And they're locking down countries. It just needs to be accepted. Okay? And the greater plan of all of this. Oh, I wish I didn't do that. Okay, I had a tweet that I was looking at and I think I hit back. Yes, I did. Give me a moment. This is Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. He is the head of WHO, World Health Organization, for those of you who don't know. And on February 7th, he had a very important tweet. right here, this tweet. The WHO is not alone. We are mobilizing the full power of the UN system and bringing together partners to support countries. No one country or organization can stop this outbreak alone. Our best hope and our only hope is to work together. Listen, and you can go through his Twitter and you can see all the countries that they're working with. They are going to lock down the world, country by country. They are meeting with the leaders of all the countries. They are going to implement a worldwide martial law, waiting for the markets to crash, waiting for it to spread. I do not know how long we have. This is inevitable. It's happening now, and people need to be prepared. You get prepared for this, and hopefully it blows over. Hopefully their planning and their diligence fails them. But this is their plan. UN, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, a plan to depopulate the world, a plan to move everybody into cities, quarantine people out of the country and push them into cities, into I can rant for too long, so I'm just going to end it here. You know, I was going to show video. I was going to rant over some video of all the videos that I found scouring through Twitter. And it's tough to watch, I can't lie. Because it's people, if a person crossing the street, when they get to the other side of the street, there will be a military personnel with a thermometer taking their temperature. If a person's body temperature is higher than a certain, they get dragged away to quarantine. They get sent to be with the people who have coronavirus, so inevitably, even if they're just running a cold, they catch it. They've got citizens turning on citizens, finding people who are sick. There's video of people spitting on elevator buttons, spitting on door handles because they know they've got coronavirus and they want other people to catch it because they don't want to die alone. There's video of people walking into hospitals and trying to cough on healthcare workers. There's videos of military government personnel welding not just one, not just two buildings, welding all the buildings shut. Walking up to the steel door and just welding its hinges and then welding crossbars across. So I'm gonna cut this live stream short now because I just don't want to rant. It's just people need to get prepared for the store shelves in America to be emptied. People need to prepare and have plans for what they want to do, because this is all avoidable. A person doesn't have to get sick. A person doesn't have to be put into quarantine, be put on lockdown. Just need to plan and be ready to drop everything in a moment's notice. So that's my coronavirus update. I'm out.